In today's episode, we hear from a special guest who is limping her way through life, literally. One leg barely working, knee pain so sharp she could hardly move. Every step felt like her body was screaming the truth she couldn't say out loud. That pain had a story behind it. It came from years of relationship conflict, narcissistic abuse from an ex, and even spiritual abuse from a church that tore her down. Her mind had been in survival mode for a long time, and her body was finally saying, I can't carry this anymore. No one understands this better than Robert Jean. He's the founder and CEO of Skills to Change Institute and the creator of eutaptics and FasterEFT. He's a neuroplastician, behavioral engineer, known as the Einstein of the mind. Robert has spent over 4 decades helping people rewrite memories, transform emotional patterns that create lasting, measurable change. And before we get started, take a second to subscribe to the podcast so that you can stay connected to every episode we release. Hi, Robert.
Wow, this topic is so big, because, when I started a long time ago, because I had a lot of stuff, I was married at the time, and she had a lot of physical pains moving throughout her body, always a pain here, always a pain there. And of course, when we started working, actually, because biblical studies is my major, so we was doing that. And then I said, we need therapy. We need some therapy. So we found some guy, and he used something like guided imagery or something. And so I started reading all kinds of books about physical trauma, sexual traumas. And there's a book about, I think, the lion, tiger. I don't know what it was now. I don't remember. But I started reading everything about trauma, physical trauma, sexual trauma, and stuff. And in the early days, we're dealing with pain. I walk into the bedroom. She's sitting at the end of the bed watching TV with this look of unpleasantness on her face. I said, are you okay? My stomach hurts. I said, well, and that's right when we started using the psychosensory process called EFT. I said, did you try tapping on it? She goes, no, it hurts too bad. I said, do you mind if I help you? So she let me. So, not very long, the pain was gone. I go, wow, I wonder why does that work? That's the big thing. Why does this process work? And so I was really gung-ho and really want something that works, and working on all my family members, working on me. And I remember laying in bed, had a pain in my shoulder, and I'm addressing this. And the pain goes away. I go, why did that work? How can something like this shift the pain in the body? And of course, at that time, I started studying neurolinguistic programming, NLP, also the tapping stuff, and mixing and matching and working on all kinds of people. So, and come to find out, the magical link, I say magical, I don't believe in really magic, but the link that works is the mind affects the body affects the mind. And, so somehow, I don't know how I did this. I said, I need to help people. Where do I find people? My mind said, try a massage. I never had a massage, never done massage. So I got a massage, and I go, wow, this is really amazing. And I thought, well, people who get massage probably want help. But I asked her about the school, and she said, yeah, you can take a class, do a weekend class, and see if you're good enough to do that. In the training there, I go, oh, stress affects the body. Stress, emotions affect the body. So that was a jackpot for me, Mm-hmm. Then I had to spend hours and hours saying, what is stress? What is it?
What is it?
and then then of course you go on the internet. It was back, I don't know, like, let's see, 2000. I had Windows 3.11. That's a long time ago, right? And I was searching and just a billion things about stress. I go, I got to make it simple. What makes it so simple? And I have it down, and stress is really interesting. Stress is the body's reaction to perception, to how you perceive things. So that means 2 people can be in the same office, or 5 people. The boss barks some orders. One person gets really angry, upset, stressed out, buys, grabs her purse, gets her soda and her cigarettes, and stomps her way down. The other goes, what's the big deal? It's all about perception. So then I have it figured out. Stress, the leading cause of all of our problems, which is driven by perception. Perception is malleable. And that's the real key. So here I have it. Now again, we're dealing with Tammy, we deal with you, we deal with me, and I work with people with what you call top shelf physical pains like fibromyalgia, ME, lupus, Hashimoto's disease, shoulder pain, jaw pain, back pain, leg pain, nose pain, all kinds of pains. And the solution is the same. It's memories, emotions, fears, and hurts that drive it. And so, so that's the key.
Right. So you're saying, so what creates perception? Can you go into that?
Perception is what you pick up from the world. So when you're born, the world is starting to shape before you. Because, even though you may be the first one or the last one or the middle child or the fifth child or the 12th child, you have a different world. And by what you experience, you create an identity, you create a value, you create something based on what you've experienced. So we start to internalize the world, and by our internalization and our experiences, it filters perception. And so it's the memories that builds perception and experiences. Now, what's really bizarre is that Tammy or you or I could have a really strong unpleasant experience at 10 years old or 5 years old, but consciously we have no memory of it. But from one moment you're walking down the street, something bad happens, it could change your whole projection of the world, your whole perception of the world. Little Johnny goes into the bathroom and someone follows him. Before that is a happy-go-lucky boy. Now all of a sudden he's a scared, terrified boy. Just by one experience. Perception has now been adjusted. And so that's how the brain works. Perception is the cause of problems, and perception is adjustable and malleable. And what the brain does, that's the back part, the driving part, which is your limbic operating system, unconscious, subconscious, whatever else you want to call it, it triggers the body and it catches conscious attention. So, you've heard this story. People say, and it's a misnomer, it's not true. The body doesn't keep the score. They say it does. That's because they're ignorant of the unconscious. So the body represents the score, but the scorekeeper is the unconscious mind and the memories and the references and perceptions. Mm-hmm. So that's the driving force of all of our problems. Of course, again, little Tammy or little you or little Robert or anybody else on the call, you can have an experience, and it's an unpleasant experience. They're going to call that a trauma, which it really is. But my definition of a trauma is just an education on how the world works. And your brain's going to take this experience, internalize it, and use it to protect you. And again, if you've had a lot of crazy family, which I don't know about you, I've had some of that. And Tammy, you had one of those too, right? Some little crazy family. And of course, Crystal, she's top shelf of crazy family experiences. But she's working on it, aren't you, Crystal?
Yeah, I am.
But we all have it. But here's the deal. And then, of course, when you get older, if you don't know how to change this and adjust this and clean it up, then they're going to go to the psychologist, or you have complex PTSD. And all it is really just a lot of experiences compounding and creating a really scared little girl, even though she's 45 or 50 or 60. And so now again, the problem is the people who are supposed to be experts can't change the number one cause of PTSD or complex PTSD. Mm-hmm. Now, PTSD is not a disorder. There's not a sore or a wound in your mind. Your brain captured experiences, and it's going to use those experiences as a survival skill to set yourself free from the symptom, which they will call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not a disorder. It's a safety protective system. Once you change memories, the behavior changes because your perception of the world shifts and changes. And so, stress is the body's reaction to perceptions. And so that's the real deal, So, if you got a lot of stuff and you can really trace it back. I mean, I work with people who have, and science has even proven this. Cancer, for example, they can back it up 2 years, a major emotional trauma. All right. So we can see that. And of course, little old Tammy, I don't know Tammy's story, but she has a book report to do tomorrow. She has a horrible fear of public speaking. And she's sick in the morning because she don't want to go to school. Why do you think she's sick? Because she's scared. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of how the system works.
Right. So, but when you say that trauma isn't education, it's not favorable for some people.
When you say favorable, what does that mean?
Well, some people don't, they don't like that. They don't like that you would say that trauma or PTSD is an education because they've been trained a certain way. And now we do have new people listening to the podcast. And so maybe you can address that a little bit more about why you, like, what do you mean when you say it's an education?
Well, it's to me, it's pretty simple. Now you have two options. We got option one. You pump gas in your car, you look up and you see a horrible accident in front of you. And then you have night sweats, you can't drive your car, you're having panic attacks. You go to a psychologist and they say, well, you have post-traumatic stress disorder, which basically means the disorder means something's not working. You witness something, now your brain's broke. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep. Now, if I say that's an education, which it really is, you're pumping gas, you see something really bad that happened, your brain captures that information, internalize it, and use it on you to keep you safe because that's a bad experience. And so you were exposed to something you didn't know that existed. Now, of course, I work with thousands and thousands of people. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, war memories, death memories, you name it, I've worked with it, right? And by merely adjusting what they learned about the world, we change how it's in. Now he can sleep all night long. Jason, his name's Jason. So I'm in a drug rehab, I volunteer, and I help Jason. He's waking up 6 times a night. Just wake up all night long. He's come from Afghanistan. He's seen his buddies killed. He's killed people, and he can't sleep. So, and he comes in. I go, he says, I've never talked about this stuff, and of course you can't, because if you talk about to a typical therapist, you're going to be opened up and you're going to go crazy. And I said, well, listen, you don't just pick a memory. You don't have to tell me what it is, and I'll help clean it up for you. All right, and that way you'll know I know what I'm doing. So he picked a really good memory, a pretty strong one. Within 5 minutes, I said, tell me about it. He told me the story. He goes, I said, does it bother you? He said, no, it doesn't seem like it's me anymore. Now, before, he's sweating bullets, he's scared, he's shaking his boots. Because, see, memories are very malleable and adjustable. But if you don't know what you're doing, you'll never be able to make changes. And so the panic attacks are gone. He slept all night long, So this is how the brain works. Now, the bad thing is, like, I joined some of these groups on Facebook and they're PTSD, and a lot of people are almost bragging about how screwed up they are,
Yes, I see that.
I mean, it's almost like it's a bragging, right? Mm-hmm. And it is almost like a good history of my miserable life. Mm-hmm. But it's nothing worth bragging about, because, you're having panic attacks, you have anxieties, you got drugs, you're acting crazy, and you're going to pass this down to your children too. It becomes a crazy system. But, right. That's the reason why it's an education. You just learned about something, exposed to the world that you didn't know existed, and then since it's a shocker, your brain's going to take it in and organize it and use it to protect you, but also keep you crazy and always afraid someone's going to get you.
Right. Well, and it's like what you say, when someone doesn't know how to change it, though, that's when they'll write the book, get the tattoo, and, start an anti-group regarding the topic that they were traumatized in. Mm-hmm. So let's shift gears a little bit into the mind-body connection. So when someone is falling apart emotionally and their body starts to express physical pain, what's actually happening in the mind?
Well, I mean, there's first of all, no one falls apart. I mean, it's not like an arm will fall off or a leg will fall off or your heart splits in half. That's a bad, people think they fall apart. What they're really saying is, I feel like I'm going crazy. And again, what the brain does, and there's a lot of variables to this. What the brain does, it flashes pictures in your mind. It will have words flow through your head. Maybe the mean mother or the ex-husband will flow. You start to, because again, when you have bad experiences, we'll call them traumas, your brain says, oh, shoot, it's going to happen again. So I don't want it to happen again. So that's why your brain starts doing what it does. Every slight sound, every slight movement, depends on the specific traumas. And so the brain is on what you call hyper alert. Now, why is it hyper alert? Because of memory references, right? So what I will do with a client, we'll go and we'll adjust the memories. We'll just adjust the memories. We'll adjust the value system that they created from the past experiences where they shift it to where they're safe and be okay. They don't go crazy, but they drive themselves crazy with worry, and they ask really intelligent questions. How bad will it get? What happens if it happens again? Will I die? They imagine themselves dying, or they replay the horrible, scary stuff in their head, trying to prepare themselves just in case it happens, but it just happens when they play it in their mind.
Mm-hmm. And when you don't have the right tools and you replay it in your mind over and over, don't they keep on experiencing even more situations that are similar?
It compounds it. It gets stronger.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, the worst fear, I tell people, say fear is an affirmation. The more you practice fear, the bigger it gets. Fears are affirmations, also called fears great wishes, because you're investing so much emotion in it and you're playing the worst scenarios in it. It's just it's a bad road, but it's your road and you're the driver and you're imagining it based on whatever happened. And it's over now.
Yeah. So for anybody listening and you're realizing that you have very similar emotional patterns and you don't know what to do, Robert has a training called You Can Change Yourself Master Training. He teaches you how to release these patterns that are formed, and you can change yourself from the inside out. This is not about someone else. This is about you learning how to drive what you have on the inside of you.
Mm-hmm. And another thing too, I know you're scared, and it's the fear is so horrible. It's so controlling. You get so afraid even to find help because you've tried help before and they didn't help, it got worse. And I know that, and so, some of the things you could do is, I have these podcasts. Listen to me. Listen, see if I make sense. You want something you can put your feet on the ground and say, okay, I can trust this. Now, if you listen to me, you're going to notice it all is practical and logical. And that's how I pride myself and keep my feet on the ground, not in fairyland, Sorry, Sherry. Sorry, Crystal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I followed lots of fairyland teachers, and truthfully, it was hard to know what was true and what wasn't true. Like, okay, I'm going to do this with the light, and so we're bringing in the light to clear a problem, and this is like energy clearing. But you never know if you'll be able to clear this problem with the light. And then if you ask your instructor will tell you, if you have a problem, the problem is you're not bringing in enough light. So that was always the solution, or that was the solution to the problem. And so you kept on bringing in more light. But if you're working on a belief or something even deeper, you can bring in all the light you want, and it still is there.
Yeah. That's a big difference in what I do. We go to the memories, and Crystal, you have memories that you don't know about. You have experiences that you're even afraid to get close to. But they are doable, and we can change those, And there's a lot of people, like I had memories, I don't even know what it was when I first started. I had memories that were dark and scary inside me. Now, if you had to understand this, guys, the brain is a metaphoric machine, which means the dark feeling in my chest represents the memories of pain and hurt that I don't want to look at. So the brain will use the past and make it feel real in the body, and it'll be a metaphor. And again, all of our problems are really metaphoric expressions of the past. So I remember it was so dark, it was like a scare, it was so scary inside me. I had tears just thinking about it. And I said, jump in, just clean it up. So I'm using my process and tapping and crying. And then all of a sudden, I just feel like this big load inside of me disappeared. Now, again, the unconscious is a metaphoric machine. That means everything you say and everything you see is about you, but it's also your unconscious recordings. And so when it was gone, I felt something left me, but it was actually, and I asked myself, what was it? What was it? And my mind said, all the things my dad did, my stepdad did to me. And the rabid dog at grandma's house. I don't know what that means, Mm-hmm. So it's scary. So again, so that's how the brain works. It works metaphorically. And like I have a lot of people who come who have like chemical sensitivities, fibromyalgia, food sensitivities, smell issues, and it becomes a metaphor of their past. And I see this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but,
Yeah, and everything you just said, those are all memories, even the scent, like the smell, all of it. Yeah. So now that we've talked about what happens inside of the mind during these painful experiences, it is time to bring someone here who lived it and overcame it. Tammy used FasterEFT and eutaptics to change emotional patterns that were breaking her down. And today she's here to share her story. So Tammy, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I have so many comments about what Robert was saying too, because I think it was interesting. He said, sometimes you don't know, or you don't realize it. And I think that's what was going on in my story. Was I thought this was normal, right? I thought it was normal to have these strange thoughts pop in my head, these dark, like you want to hurt somebody, or even an accident, driving down the road, and I would think about having an accident. And like, this was all driven from my experiences, not from I'm just, this is just like who I am, which was part of what I thought. But when I first saw Robert, it was in right around 2011, and I was just going through a really serious depression and stress. It was the most stressful time of my life. It was a time when my kids and we were in a placement battle, and it just didn't, none of it felt fair and to me. And so I just had all of these terrible thoughts. Like, I knew what those thoughts were. They weren't very wholesome, let me tell you.
Oh, come on, share them with us.
I mean, I remember at one point, like, I wasn't allowed to say I hate anybody, right? I remember at one point being like, I hate him. Like, he not only did this and this in our marriage, but then, he lies and tries to rearrange this whole situation for the kids, and it's really damaging to them. But I was actually pregnant at the time, and I was so stressed that I had a miscarriage. And so if we don't think that stress impacts the body, not only like, will we get a stomach ache if we're going to speak in public, but, that constant kind of depression and stress is just too toxic for life to exist. And so all kinds of things can show up in our body, right? So at that point, I really didn't know too much, but it made so much sense to me. And I think I was wired very logically. And so he said certain things like, well, if it's in your head, you're doing it. And I was like, wait, that means I can do something about it. Like, to me, that gave me hope. Some people feel very, I think like, oh, this is all my fault and guilty about it. But I felt like this is like, now that gives me hope, because I can actually do something about it. I can stop these thoughts that just feel like they're racing constantly and, driving me just not to be able to even get out of bed.
So what was happening in your life before you met Robert, before you started using eutaptics, just that everybody can get a good idea what your life was like?
Well, I was in my second marriage, and I had just gotten pregnant, and then my ex-husband had just gotten married. And so we had 3 children together, and I had homeschooled them, and they were really at my house. You know, I was the main parent. He was working, and he also was trying to do a lot of counseling and things to get his life straightened out. And so it was the impact that was that him fighting for more time with them was having on their life that really bothered me. So up until then, I could hold myself together, but now it was my kids, and they were coming home crying, and they, you know, and I was at the will of whatever the court decided, and apparently it's 50-50. And I was like, they can't be there 50-50. Like they're here. Like, this is their life. I think my son was a teenager already. And so it was a big transition. And it was just, I guess there's this piece of control, like as a mom that had done raising them all the way up until now. I was like, you don't even know how to, how to do these things for them, you know, but also just wanting to be with them. But the hardest thing, I think, was that I was so depressed that I wasn't even spending time with them while they were in my home. Like, it was just overwhelming how sick I was making myself. And so I think that's probably the biggest reason why I was looking for something. At that point, you know, they say pray harder and read your Bible more and things will work out. And it wasn't working. And so then I, of course, think like, what's wrong with me? How come this doesn't work for me? And luckily, that was my major question in my life. What's wrong with me? Like, if those thoughts pop up in your head, the one that always came into my head is, what's wrong with me? How come it doesn't work with me? How come it never works for me? And, you know, I guess I found a lot of answers to how come these things happen to me, which I really appreciated. It felt like logical. And then I was like, oh, well, if this is logical, that I learned this as a child and then I believed this. And so therefore it created me allowing this in my life. You know, I think one of the biggest things was, because I was a really strong, like, I'm really confident and strong and like outgoing and look like I have my life all together. And then I marry this person that's abusive and, you know, neglecting, abusive, physical, sexual, everything. And this is not something I would put up with from anybody. And then I did. And so I went back into the memories, and the one common theme that I found was like, right, you know, my parents were authoritarian and my dad was the spanker. And so right before my dad would spank me, he would know it. He would try to let me know this was for a good reason. And he would say, well, I love you. This is why I'm spanking you. So now, how come I would marry somebody abusive? The link between love and abuse was connected so young that I was totally unaware of it.
Yeah, that's a very important point too. The brain will put things together that shouldn't be together. You know, it's like chocolate doesn't equal love, and the reason why you feel like love is in chocolate is because you felt love when they gave you chocolate. But also, there's that programming. You know, I love you, that's why I'm going to beat you or give you a spanking, you know. And then all of a sudden you think that's normal. Then you got a boyfriend or a husband abusing you, but I love you, you know. And that's, the wires are crossed, you know. And then also you become almost like a professional victim in a sense, you know. And you allow it because you're a good little girl.
Exactly. Yeah, and so I mean, looking at my life, I was always like, well, I would never marry into this. Like, that wasn't part of my family as far as like the relationships that I saw with my parents and their friends or any adult in my life. But it was how my brain connected the two things. And apparently it showed up that way. So I find a lot of hope in being able to say, all right, this keeps showing up in my life. Let's go back and take an analysis, where did this start, and be able to transform it where it started. And then, just like Robert said, like the behaviors change. You don't put up with it. You're just like, no, I wouldn't put up with this, right?
Well, I think, another thing too, we talk about narcissism. Eventually we'll get to that. Narcissism is a programming that we all have within us. Some are big, some are small. And if you want to be we're all going to be a narcissist. We all have some levels. Look up healthy narcissists on Google, and that's the one you want to be. Now, if you think about parenthood is very narcissistic. Religions are very narcissistic. You know, I bring you into this. How many of you have heard this? Some of you may have said, I brought you into this world, I can take you out, you know. So they have the full responsibility to make sure you grow up in the way they think you should grow up. And of course, what they think you should grow up is based on what they went through. You know, so if they've had an abusive, controlling, spanking, whatever parents they had, they're going to pass the gauntlet down to the next generation. And so, you know, like you said, you come from a very authoritarian, my way is the right way, you should do it this way, and if you don't, we're going to punish you. And then, of course, you know, religions are extremely like that. And of course, it depends on which one. They're even worse than others. And then, of course, when you've got to be a good girl because you have to be subservient, you have to be obedient, and then you find a husband, and you presume they're going to be good, but you end up picking the jackpot for emotional craziness and training, and then you just repeat a cycle again. So it's, in order to get off of that merry-go-round, you have to work on you, and of course, relationships go through changes. I was married early, young. I was 22 and I got married, but we bring our stuff with us. We bring our childhood, our programs, around 30, 36, 37, 40 something, we discovered we're really messed up. We got problems and we want to figure out how to get a way out. And again, of course, we're going to point at our relationship with our husband or our wife, but it's not really them, it's what we carry inside. So, and I like what you said earlier. You said the concept that you learned from me, everything inside you is yourself. That means, and if you don't understand this, guys, you're not traumatized by what they did. You're traumatized by what you took and internalized. That means when you look at a memory of something happened bad or good, your brain created that by what it witnessed outside you, which means everything inside you is yours and everything inside you is you. And if you have unpleasant memories, you change them, you'll act differently, you'll feel differently, you'll keep the wisdom and not repeat a crazy cycle. Now, by the way, when you change memories, it doesn't change history because you can't change something that doesn't exist. You only change what your brain recycles on you. And I think if you get that one concept and then learn how to change memories, you'll be free to be happier and better. So, but yeah, so here it is. Now, you did come to us and you had a lot of pain too. You had some pain and stuff going on in your body, and you had a lot of stuff going on. Is that right?
Yeah, so then I came back to this work in 2017. I was 2 weeks from getting my black belt, the big competition, and I was totally prepared. And then I had also bought a pony party business at the same time, and an old injury showed up in my knee, and I was scheduled for a total knee replacement at that December. And I thought, well, I don't think this can work on that because I have the X-ray and the MRI, but I scheduled an appointment with a practitioner, and she said, well, if the pain adjusts during the session, would you believe that it had something to do with emotions? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I don't think that's going to work. And it did. And so I worked on it myself, and I did cancel that total knee replacement. So it was a big, huge win. It also brought a lot of other things. I think the one thing that, working with the memories and updating them and even tapping, I think one of the greatest things it does is it kind of clears your thinking, and then you find solutions too. So there were lots of solutions coming into my life that I had never learned about for dealing with arthritis and, loosening up those ligaments and tendons and just like everything. I just applied it all because once you're no longer going down the path of this is the only option, then, you start finding somehow magically, right? Instead of finding
So
that
it's almost like your perception changed.
yeah, almost.
So when your perception changed, then there was unlimited possibilities. Now it opened up different possibilities.
Yeah.
Did you find that with your business that you noticed, oh, there's other solutions here? Because you said you started a business and there was
Yeah.
stress.
Yeah, that like I guess I was so, it's kind of like what Robert said, if you don't know, if it's normal for you, then you don't know. And so I don't even think that I would have known I wasn't stressed. Like if someone was like, you're really stressed, I would have been like, what? Because I just knew how to handle it so well. But yeah, there was a lot of stress around that whole situation. It was a big undertaking. And luckily, like at the time, I guess it just everybody was willing to help me until everything healed up, which was great. Is that the answer to your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, well, also you said you came, now you said 2011 you found me, and then 2017. When you said you found me, what does that mean? And then 2000.
On YouTube.
Oh, you saw me. Okay.
So that's when I was like praying and reading my Bible so hard, and I'm like, there's got to be answers for how to get out of this depression. And I didn't want to go back on medication. I had done that during my divorce, and I'm not a person that goes to the doctor often, so I didn't want to have to do that again. And I don't know, magically Robert appeared, and just some of the trainings that I watched and stuff, I was like, that makes sense. Like, oh, that makes sense. And the more things made sense, I was just willing to try it.
So did you got sessions? Is that what you did, or what did you do? You work on yourself?
So then, not during my depression, I just had that 2-hour thing like you. Like I tapped and I said everything I was saying out loud that I was too scared to ever say. I think that was my method, even though it was like, I hate him, let it go, because I would have never said that out loud. And so I was like actually listening to my own thoughts and speaking them, giving them like, okay, you're doing this in your head, now be aware of it and let it go. Don't just keep doing it, because now you're aware and you know that there is an option. And I did that for like 2 hours, and I felt the same thing. It was just like the light turned on. I felt this big release. I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter what happens in court. I have my kids here right now. I'm going to go play. And that's what I did for the rest of the time. I was like, I don't know what I got, but right now I have this. And I became much more present and able to, like, this still is really tender for me, but because that's huge. If you're going through a divorce or this kind of thing, like, your kids are getting left out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just behind me. I wasn't doing that.
Mm-hmm. So then in 2017, what was it made you come back? I mean, obviously you wasn't trained. You just watched free videos and you started working on yourself.
Yeah. And I had told my friends sometimes, I'm like, I don't know, this is really weird, but just try it. And so in 2017, it was the total knee replacement.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. And I did get some sessions then, because I guess I just thought I didn't know what to do. I'm like, this is real physical stuff. There's no way that this is going to work. And
it did.
I guess I gave it a chance, because I'm like, if it it costs so much less than a total knee replacement. And then I actually signed up for level 1, because once it started working, I was like, okay, there is a whole lot of information I could learn about this. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, most of you guys are listening. Level 1 is you can change yourself. It's a foundation of how your brain works, how to change your memories, how to take control of your life, and also it's part 1 to becoming a practitioner, where you can actually work from home, doing Zoom calls and help people change and transform their lives. The system is designed to heal the practitioner, really, but they also learn how to help other people. And so, Tammy and even Crystal, you can see they've changed by just taking the course, practicing, and they're also adjusting, changing the bad stuff. So by the time you become a practitioner, you're a different person. you have more personal value, you have a career or a hobby, depends on how you want to do it. And you've worked on yourself. And another thing is you create your friendships. You create friendships that says, hey, Crystal, I need a session. No problem. And then Crystal will call you and say, hey, I need a session. And that means you're also helping each other grow. So that's the beauty of the system.
Yeah, it's definitely set up well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, of course, a lot of your family's been to come to you. We worked with your husband, gave your daughter sessions, and so it's a good change. Of course, the thing is, we always go through experiences.
Yeah.
Our desires and wants change over time. People change over time. You got to figure out how to process that stuff.
Yeah. I think one thing I would say, like as a parent, like you can tell that my experience was all about putting my kids, like how is this affecting them? And I think as a parent, there's so many times that it has been the most amazing thing. You would not want to parent without having this understanding of how a brain works, because your child is absorbing the life in front of them and you just don't know how unless you understand how to ask these art of change questions and really dive into what does it mean about them? What are their perceptions? What are they going to take from this experience? And then how do you really help them be able to let it go so it doesn't turn into that trauma that they're replaying without knowing or with knowing?
Yeah.
So I think that's been it's worth everything just to have that.
Yeah, and I think if you can help your children also display that you're taking control, because this is self-regulation, it's emotional intelligence. Smart people do it. Dumb ones just
Really
suffer.
smart people.
Yeah, really smart. Because the other option is to be miserable and blame the
Yeah.
world.
And blame, I think you talked about that a little bit. Like, it's just so easy to blame. And when you have that blame cycle, then you're out of control. That's a victim mindset, right? And so to just every moment, like there are sometimes you just every single night you go to bed and you change what happened during the day. You don't have to go to sleep with that same old story to wake up like Groundhog Day the next day.
So basically, you're taking ownership of your life. You have a stressor, you have a problem bothering you, you tap on it, you create a logical understanding, and then you go to sleep. Yeah. So you also work on your children too, is that right?
Yes, we've had it's great because now that they're adults, a lot of them ask me questions, come back to me, and it's such an empowering feeling to be like, okay, so I think that as a mom, before I did this work, I took it personally. Oh, this is my fault. Oh no. But now when they come to me, there's nothing personal about it. It's like, oh, what did you think about that? Okay, there are things I did wrong, right? Like, but especially the way they took it is what matters. So now it becomes this logical process of finding out what did it mean for them instead of just blaming myself and getting really defensive with them. And so it builds this really beautiful connection that is they can come to you with something that you did wrong or just something going on in their life that you can see, oh, great, that's because I did this thing back then. I mean, we blame ourselves for the stuff that our kids go through later in life, right? Oh, they can't ever find a love in their life because of my divorce or all of these things. And I think it just is so much freedom to be able to really just dive into, what happened and be able to adjust it for them as opposed to feeling blamed and defensive or blaming their other parent or blaming the situation. Like that doesn't actually help them. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I love being able to do that. And, we had some issues a couple of years ago with my teenager and everything changed 3 months. Like it was a drastic change. She's just doing so well now. And it's not like bad things aren't going to happen, but I do feel like this is a skill that I would never want to be a parent without.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because you could really, if you didn't work on yourself and you were the old, emotional, wounded, guilty person, you will be miserable. They'll be miserable. It's just one bad party,
I would be in a wheelchair, I'm pretty sure, because it always manifested in my body really quickly. Like, I'm good at that. But now my body, I have a pain and I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Because sometimes I'm just unaware of my emotional state, but I am aware of the physical, and that helps me dive in. But yeah, there was a lot of different issues that were pretty immediate for me, all the way even when I was a kid, right? Like, oh, I'm the one that got stomach aches for whenever I got nervous and things like that. So yeah, I think that my body would be much more deteriorated, and who knows?
Oh yeah.
It helped.
Well, the thing is, emotions wear and tear. Negative emotions wear and tear. Positive emotions heal and bend. And having the capacity to shift how you handle things, how you internally represent things. And like I've said before, I have worked with people who have severe physical illnesses, severe chemical sensitivities, issues that the doctor can't even fix. Hashimoto's, lupus, they can't fix that stuff. Fibromyalgia, me. They can't do anything with it. But by merely addressing bad experiences of their past, by changing the internal references, the body follows the changes in the mind. And that is profound. The thing about that statement, it is scientifically proven. It's called placebo. People healed, their brain healed their bodies, even though they're taking a sugar pill or getting a fake operation. It's not the sugar pill or the fake operation that healed the body. It's belief. It's internal processing of information, changing how they see things, changing how they and by doing that, their body follows those changes. So
yeah, it's really miraculous that the body can do that so well.
I also want you to share some of the things that you've done as a practitioner helping people. And how's the training been for you? What's it done for you? How's it affected your life in people?
Well, I'm the rare person that absolutely loved the training, and I'm like, let's practice. And they're like, why do you gotta practice all the time? I love this stuff. Like, it was just, I want to find the answers and then like see the results. It was so exciting. Oh gosh, I've just had so many amazing things. When you brought up fibromyalgia, I guess this one girl, and she actually came to level 1, which was so fun too. But she had fibromyalgia, POTS. She was on a whole bunch of medication, and she was working at Mayo. She was down at Mayo, and they told her, like, you need a coach because we don't know what to do about all this pain. We can't help you. Nothing's working. And at the time, she couldn't get a boyfriend, couldn't drive a car, couldn't get a job because she might just pass out from POTS, and the pain was so great. So here she is, 17, and she can't do all of those normal things. And in the short time we worked together, she was basically able to get all of those things back and come to level 1 and go study psychology. She's in college right now. So that's really exciting to think. Without this, who knows, like going down the medical hole of try this medicine, which I think in my research is very unhealthy for the body. Our body is not crying out for chemicals and drugs. It's crying out for something that's, natural, but also changing those perceptions to allow the body to relax and heal, which it's made to do. That's what it's made to do.
Can you explain what POTS is for those that are like, what is that?
I don't know a whole, the good thing about this work is I don't have to get a whole bunch of details. I love that.
It's true.
I'm just like, okay, you know what bothers you. But as far as I know, any kind of exertion can cause them to get dizzy and faint, or get dizzy or faint. So anything that could be stressful could make them.
Right. So then you found, and so you found the emotional patterns that were connected to it, and she healed.
Yeah.
Well, you have to think, another thing when we use
married, I think.
Another thing when we use the word healed, I mean, we consciously look at our body, it's sick, but in reality, the body isn't sick. It's just expressing those memories and hurts and pains. And pain is designed to keep you safe based on a perception or a concept or a worry. Granted, you can fall and you can break an arm. Some people heal really fast and some people never heal. And it's because of what they do inside their mind. So, I've had a guy come in and the doctor is giving him medications for the arm that isn't there. So he lost his arm in an accident and the doctor is giving medication for the pain in that arm that isn't there. It's phantom pain. And so what I did is I went to the memory of how he got hurt. We changed the memory to where the pain's not there and he doesn't need medications anymore. So that's how powerful the mind is.
And I've had several clients also with this, like with an estranged parent or an estranged child. This one I specifically remember, she's like, my mom will never call me and she hasn't come to visit me in 10 years. And, it was a very stressful situation, and you deal with those memories and then guess who calls and invites herself over, right? Like, it seems out of the blue. That's how we would call it. But it's definitely related to, the associations, the perception, the guilt, the negative emotions of whatever happened in that relationship. Yeah. And it's great to see kids come back into parents' lives and mend those relationships, that we don't have to hold that person by the standard of something that happened 10 years ago anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because a lot of people will go to the past and dig up a grave of a memory and then beat their partners or their relatives with the bones they dug up from 100 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And that's the real deal is understanding that we're using our history to destroy our present moments in our body. And, one of the things, and I've said this before, that your number one healer, the way to transform yourself, are the people you can't stand, the people who hurt you. It's your ex-husband, it's your brother, it's your mother, it's your father. It's the memories that impacted you as a child, but you're the one who's carrying those memories against you and against that other person. And when I talked to a friend, I said, hey, listen, you need to make peace with your mother. She loves her mother, but she said, I can't stand the bitch. I said, you need to make peace with her, And I said, listen, it's not about her, it's about you. And so she took that advice and she started working on her memories and how she felt about her mother. Her mother was a good person. But, in her past, her mom wasn't perfect. She did things that wasn't so nice. And so she was walking around with this resentment inside of herself, which I don't know if any of you ever noticed this, that if you have resentment inside you with one person, it shows up in another person somewhere else. Not only in yourself, but others. So you become a magnet for the thing that you said you didn't want. And so once she did that, she goes, oh my God, my mother's changing, and she never had a session. Yeah. And what happens is we have these dirty filtered glasses on, and we're seeing people from our history. And the resentment inside of us is what destroys us, And so when she made peace with that, she actually saw her mother who she is today, but how she sees her today is a reflection of how she feels about herself inside. Mm-hmm. So that's the real key, It's like, I see this all the time, you got a relationship, you like this woman, she called me and she says, I've been married for 25, 40 years. I need to know what to do with my husband. I said, is he still alive? I said, I don't help dispose bodies. She said, no, he's alive. He was an alcoholic before we met. He's still an alcoholic. And I just want to know what to do with him. I don't know if I want to divorce him or what. I said, well, this is how I do relationships. I said, write a list of everything you don't like about him. Everything you didn't like about him, whatever it is. and have him write the same thing about you. Everything you did wrong, everything he did wrong. Do not share the list. Trust me on that one. Because they're always say, you, right? Right, so here it is. So she comes in my office, and I'm working on her memories about him and what she doesn't like. And, of course, he was safe. She married him because he was safe. Even though he was an alcoholic, he was safe. Well, over time, her needs and wants changed, And so I work on her all that 2 hours, changing every bad, pleasant, unpleasant memory, everything else. And then she's, at the end of the session, goes, I don't feel like we did anything. I said, what do you mean? She goes, I still don't know what to do with him. I said, well, trust me. I'm getting ready to work on him, and I'll see you next week, and we'll go from there. So she leaves. She was so elated. She was so happy. She went into the, and she left. And so then I go out and get him. He wasn't there. So I went back to my office. 20 minutes later, I go back. He wasn't there. Well, the following week, she shows up. First thing she said, oh my God, he completely changed. Now, I didn't see him. Well, what happened is her attitude, her emotional system was impacting him. Now, if you think about it, and I said, think about it logically. If every time you come home, you kick the dog when you walk in the door, the dog's going to be drinking beer with his buddies, with your husband too. I said, you both are playing a game. You know how to dance this dance. You've been playing it for all these years. You just need to make peace with how you see him. And that's what we did. And again, that doesn't mean all the problems are gone, but perception can change. And, being married, I was married for 22 years. Relationships change every 10 years, every 7 years, actually, but every 7 or 8 years, it shifts. I mean, there's a shift in want and need. And a lot of people, they will want to bail out because I'm miserable and I'm not getting what I want. Well, it's because you're shifting and changing, and they need to shift and change too. So by me working on her, he changed. And that's the thing. He changed, you change. And also I said, listen, you don't have to like beer to love him. You don't have to sit and watch football to be in a relationship with him. You do have your common things, you do your things together, cherish those. But there will be people in your life that will bring you other points that you need and a moment. So anyway, it's the same old thing. The cause of all problems is perception and how you see it, how you represent it. And I've seen it. I mean, I've worked with a guy, he's got a new wife. And sure enough, she looks like the last one. And what you don't do is call them the last one's name. They get mad at you. Because it's a recycling system. Now, those of you who listen to me, look at your past relationships. It's the same type. I'm guilty of that as well. So how do you solve this? You change those relationships in your head. You change how you represent them in your past. And so, again, everything is a repeating cycles. Our brain is the first recycling system in the world. It recycles our past, and it continues. And the woman said, I'm getting the ones I pick are getting worse. I said, they're not getting worse. You're improving your misery. You're picking worse ones than before. It's getting better at it. It's because you're compounding your learning experiences. So you got to unlearn, release, and let go, and transform yourself. So that's another big thing when we're dealing with each other, ourselves. And so, like I said, I know that system. I've experienced that system. And I go, no, thank you. I'm moving on, changing my programs. And so you've done a really great part of your life. I've been watching you over the years. You don't look like the same Tammy we found you. It's like you just crawled out from under a rock, and now you're standing on top of the rock.
Yeah, and it's also fun to work with cravings. I've helped people like coffee, frosting, cookies. Like that's kind of fun because you just think that you love it, right? And it's nice to have that freedom to not love it.
Yeah, this system is a great system, guys. If you're listening to this, Tammy's real, I'm real. Crystal, she's real. Most of the time.
We're not AI.
You always have to pick on me.
No, I like picking on you. Crystal, I mean, by the way, guys, Crystal, I don't know if you've seen the first videos. Crystal's changed so much. And she's in the training, she's getting sessions, she's giving sessions, she's changing.
I feel different.
Yeah, you look different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's a part of the process of growth and change. So, I mean, that's what we're here for, guys. We're here to improve our life. And if you're tired of suffering, if you're really tired of suffering, do something different. This system is different. It will work. It will change you. It has all the right pieces to make it work. And you deserve a better life. And it starts inside your mind. And, you know, Tammy, she can tell you her life is, like she said earlier, she'd probably be in a wheelchair had she not found this system, because her body was crying from all the emotional stress and pain that she was suffering through. And she just let it go. Tap on it, move on. So, but anything else? You had some questions too, didn't you, Crystal?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So if this conversation is really connecting with you and you're hearing your own patterns, your own relationship, your own emotional struggles that we're talking about, we have a few powerful ways of starting to create real change. You can book a private session with Robert. You can join level 1. You can change your self-master training. You can schedule a strategy call with me to figure out exactly where to begin. Any of these paths will help you start shifting the gears in your life.
We have practitioners.
Yes.
And Tammy's one of the practitioners, level 4 certified. So we have a lot of practitioners who help us as well. So you said you have some questions?
Yes, I do. So this is in regards to narcissism. So I know you talked about narcissists, that there's the positive. Is that how you refer to it? The positive narcissist?
Yes.
The healthy, was it healthy?
Okay.
Yes,
Healthy
the
part,
healthy narcissist. On the other spectrum, on the other end, is the unhealthy narcissist. And so some of the questions that we have with that is, what are the core traits of a narcissistic partner? For someone that is questioning, okay, am I in a narcissistic relationship? How do I know?
Well, our relationships are narcissistic. Some are extreme, some are less extreme. Okay. Now, again, remember, what is narcissism? Narcissism says my way is the right way, my way is correct, and you should do it my way. All right. Now, the extreme ones are going to be, don't care about your feelings, and they're going to do whatever they want. And they're going to do whatever they want to manipulate you. I mean, there's a lot to this program. There'll be, there's triangulation. They get people to work against you. They will gaslight you, say everything you do is crazy so that you'll do it their way. There is the professional victimizer victim. That means they always play the victim. They do something, then they blame you for this. There's so many different parts to this. It is a survival system. But can a narcissist change? Yes. I have, you have, we are. You can change. Now, will an extreme abused, now again, you have to understand, an abused person, we'll call it narcissist, will they change? They could. But most likely, the pain of changing, the pain of looking at their misery is too great to even get close to working on themselves. They won't. Now, I mean, I know that Tammy, and I know you, Crystal, and me too, there are points and memories in our life where we were so scared to even get close to it. We won't even get close. And then eventually we'll get close to clean it up because we have a system that does diffuse the emotional intensities. So, can you fix a narcissist? Well, you can fix you, but you can't fix someone else unless they want to do it themselves. Yeah. Some will be codependent, but it's actually, there is a what we call trauma bonding, because you're bonded to this person. Especially if you come from a really heavy duty religious system that trained you to be submissive and obedient. If you're unlucky, you pick one. If you're unlucky, you get a guy who's abusive. You're going to stick with it and live with it and deal with it and die with it. So. And then again, sometimes, narcissists will blame the other one for their narcissism as well. Because remember, narcissism is, they're always finding fault with you. And some will always find fault with a partner, not realizing what they have is good. So again, there's always the fault finders, there's always the criticizers, there's the play the victim. They abuse in many ways as well. So the shoe fits on both people. Because if you've been experiencing narcissist, now your parents are narcissistic. Just remember this. And so you're going to learn their parenting skills. You're going to learn their patterns, and you're going to use it on yourself. You'll use it on your children, or you'll find someone to use it on you. So the ball rolls both ways. It's not just one. And it's like a glove. You are one, and the other's a glove. They fit right over because it's something familiar. They're going to find someone that will fit their patterns. And you'll find someone that will fit your patterns because you're familiar. Even though you say you don't like it, you still do it.
Well, that leads me to the next question. Why do I feel so addicted to someone who treated me so badly?
That goes back to what Tammy said when she was a child, I love you, and I'm going to spank you.
Right. Her father spanking her.
Yeah, and that's an operating system.
And don't you say, this might be giving a little bit of level 1 away, but don't you say, like, if a child's needs aren't met, that's like we're narcissistic as a child. That's our nature in order to live. And when those needs don't get met, then we're going to continue to act in a behavior of trying to get that need met.
Yeah. And if you, working with people who say in or involved with a narcissistic relationship, they can look back. Every one of them goes right back to the parent. So it's an emotional model. It's a pattern. And the way to set you free from the pattern, you got to change how you represent your parents, change how you represent yourself, change how you represent them. It is doable, but will you do it? That's the question,
Right. So another question a listener is asking online is, why does a narcissist move on so quickly while I'm falling apart?
Well, they've got what they want, and they're moving on. And remember, you're all about yourself. Instead of celebrating the asshole's gone, you're saying, oh my God, my sex life, my great sex is gone, my financial guy's gone, my lonely feeling is now here. There's always there's two sides of this coin. And yeah, there are the victimizers, and there's also the victims that volunteer,
Right. So don't volunteer on that position.
Yeah, well, here's the bad thing, as I said, and like Tammy can tell you too, and you can too. Religions teach, well, we'll say women, men or two, teach you to give in and to surrender completely. And when you give it all, they take it all, they use it all, they manipulate it all, and then when you leave, you're missing your fix. You're missing that other half. And again, I've had friends who I said, that's a bad relationship. He's screwing you over. But see, what happens is they come in, and they call it the grooming. It's also called normal dating. Because when you meet someone, you're not going to say, oh, by the way, I'm bipolar and I'm manic depressive. I hate my parents and I don't like men, but I hate being alone. So I'm in a dichotomy. Let's date. We're not going to say that. So what happens is they keep all their shit tucked away. And I was dating this girl, and she says, I'm not always happy. I said, well, what are you? Well, I found out later. She said, because there's weird stuff going on. I go, what the hell's going on? And so come to find out, she didn't say, well, I was diagnosed. Now, I don't believe in these diagnoses. At the time, I was diagnosed a manic depressive. No, not manic depressive. Not paranoid. I dated one of those too. Paranoid schizophrenic. Those are interesting. I said, what is it? That's a borderline personality disorder. That's what it is. And so again, now at that time I didn't know what I know now. I didn't know, but I've learned a lot, and I investigate a lot about how the mind works. And because I was single for 18 years, and but the weird thing is when we pick people, we pick what we're familiar with. Now, let's say, for example, I want to use Tammy as an example. Tammy's a sweet, kind girl, and she had a really positive affection with maybe a grandpa had blue eyes, right? Or a certain look, and it was a positive look. And so Tammy, she's in high school and she sees this guy who mimics and looks like her grandpa that she loves. And then she dates him because she loves that look. It makes her feel really good. Well, this guy's going to bring in a world you didn't know existed. He comes from an abusive world, emotionally toxic world. Now, Tammy's got sucked into this marriage. And then after I do, he starts letting his bail down, and then he starts doing what Tammy never was familiar with. So now Tammy's being, you can say traumatized, but I say educated on that world, and she has to pick up and develop skills to handle that. She can be depressive, angry, and it's really a brain mess up. You know, you do something good, you get gifted, and then you do something bad, and it's just like it's a weird thing. And that's how they create what you call, and I call it an addiction. And that's why some people, they're addicted. They have this I love you feeling, the dream I want feeling, and then you reaching for it, and you get a little bit of it, and he yanks it away and disappears, or he attacks you. But you still have that dream, and that's why you keep going back, and then it comes and goes. So that's how addictions work, and that's why people keep going back to the toxic system, because you have an imprinted idea, a dream, and you've already given your heart and soul to that, and it becomes a very, very crazy world. And a lot of people get sick, they get cancer, or they die from some weird disease because they couldn't break that emotional toxicity. So I've seen it a lot. You're all quiet right now.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I mean, there's an operating system here. It's a crazy operating system. But the weird thing is, somebody said I come from a dysfunctional family, and I said there's no such thing. All families function. As a matter of fact, it functions so well, you leave that one, go find another one just like it or worse, or you'll create one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So Tammy, do you have anything that you want to share with our listeners regarding level 1? You can change yourself, or maybe even sessions. What would you say to our listeners?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, dive into understanding the logical process, because it has to give results. If we're holding something in our mind that isn't benefiting us, even if we're unaware of it, we can figure it out. And it's the simple process of asking the right questions. People say, well, I can't remember things, and you will.
Yep, it comes.
Trust the process, and definitely reach out to people. I think it's way more beneficial than any kind of therapy that you could try. Like, that's my opinion on that. And you'll be able to help yourself. Like, doesn't that make sense? You want to help yourself instead of have to, have somebody else always do the work for you. So
before eutaptics, did you try other systems, or did you try counseling? I mean, you talked about praying and the Bible, maybe fasting. Yeah. I don't know. Yep. I did lots of fasting.
Yeah, for sure. I love fasting too. It's got so many good health benefits. But if you're doing it to, like, please God, hear me and fix my situation, then there's more you could do for yourself. And so I guess for sure therapy. I had been on some medications for a while. Yeah, and the church relationships, lots of praying and all that kind of stuff. That was about it. I hadn't delved into any of the energy kind of work or anything like that. So this was, luckily, it was what made sense to me, and that's why it came into my world, because that's exactly what I needed to understand. For me, it's always been that way. I was always asking questions. And that's how I acted in the class too, because I want to understand things, because if I can understand it, then in my perception, then I can do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that for me, I need logic. I need a how to. How does this work? Why does it work? And like when I work with people, um, you know, I get right to the cause, the real memory, the real reference. Because for years people spend a lot of like this one lady. She's crying. She's crying on my in my office, and she goes, "I just want to know why. Why am I so screwed up? Why?" She said, "I could have two homes the amount of money I spend in therapy." And at that time, we're talking about 2004, 2005, something like that. I knew why we have problems. And I said, the cause, or why you have problems because you were born, but the true cause of your problems is perception and memories. You change your memories, you change your perception, of course, and she said, okay. She's wiping tears from her face. She goes, but how do I do this? I said, we can change your memories. We change how you represent your father. And she said, well, I know, all the therapy, I understand everything he did, why he did it. I know my part, his part, my mother's part. I still screwed up. I said, I know, because you're holding these memories against you. Again, remember, it's not what happened that screwed you up. It's what you took from that experience and what you internalize and use and recall and replay. And when we got to this point, because she was sexually abused, and even when she'd go on a date, she said, I would go inside myself into this little pit, she said. And she said, it's so sad and scary in this pit, but it's safer there than to be in my body for what's happening. And so this becomes a self-protective system, the pit. And it was also a very scary place. I said, we need to go clean this pit out. So we started addressing memories and going inside and how her brain processed information. And by the time we're done, this pit was clean. There was nothing bad. And because every one of you, every one of us, we internally process the world. We do something in how we cope and deal. And I said, I want you to go home, and by next week, I want you to go inside of this pit, and I want you to redesign it. And I said, you can put marble floors, you can do anything in this pit. And then she came back the following week with a big smile. She said, I did it. I said, what did you do? Because I didn't remember. I said, I went inside and I cleaned it up. I said, tell me what you do. I said, I went in and put marble floors. And he says, when I walk, I can hear my steps as I move in, and I have a desk over to the side. It has a computer, but it doesn't exist. It's like it's there, and you just kind of tap on the thing, and it says over in the middle is a tree and a bench. And above the tree, it goes way into the skies, and little twinkles come down. And when I need information, I go sit on the bench, and I get information on how to heal myself. And so, and then 10 years later, 15 years later, she wrote me, and I said, how you doing, Catherine? She goes, I'm doing good. I still go to my place inside. It still works.
Yeah. And so from a dark place to a place of refuge.
Yeah. And so here's a point I want to make, guys. Your negativity isn't negative. Your negativity is a coping mechanism. When you make peace with it, that means you update it and change it. It becomes your greatest ally for personal transformation. Your greatest ally, but you got to make peace. Make peace with the enemy. As Pogo said, the enemy is us. It's how you represent things. And that's how you're going to set yourself free. It's all about you, really. But you got to make peace with your inner world. So the kingdom of heaven is inside your heart. And so is the kingdom of hell. You get to choose what you keep and what you let go of.
Yeah. I mean, level 1 will change your life. And for sure, you'll walk away with so much understanding. But secondly, I think, just listening to all of this, I might say like, well, that's a lie. That's a lie to change your memory. I think that's what I thought with the most until my brain just gave me the information. Like if it's done properly, your brain will just go like, oh, now they're laughing instead of hitting me, or now we're doing jumping jacks instead of getting a spanking. Like your brain will do that for you. And so it's just such a light, and it always brings me back to the verse. My my burden is light and my yoke is easy. Yoke is easy and my burden is light. Because I was like, well, how? That doesn't make any sense with all these rules and all this stuff. And I couldn't figure it out. But if you allow the process that happens in the level 1, you can change yourself. You'll just be delighted with what your brain does give you in replacement, instead of feeling like you have to force it or you have to come up with something. It does it for you when it's done right, the Robert way.
It's a good way. It's a good way. It does work. So it's not really my way. I just put things together, and it's a very practical, smart way. Of course, I've been doing this work. I've been searching ever since I was 15. I had my inner demons, my inner torments, and I've been trying to figure out how to do that. And of course, I even just recently I asked myself, because you don't remember, and I talked to my kids about how Dad was, and my oldest son, we did an interview here on this podcast a few months ago, whatever it was, and I could just see by behavior, but you can't see it because you don't know it. You're just so automatically there. And of course, he kind of helped me, and I go, I must have, because, I was thinking I must have had some pretty rough stuff happen to me, as a kid, but I don't remember it, but I can see it. I can see the replications of it. So, and of course, I've been always searching to clean up my stuff. And, I have a daughter who hasn't forgiven me, and it's not me to be forgiven. I said, Rachel, you're holding these memories in you. These are yours. I said, because, she said, well, I thought you didn't love me. I said, Rachel, I loved you a lot. I had my torments. It had nothing to do with you. Because I think if I look back, I treated her like I was treated because I saw me in her, And so again, this is just how it works, and it's not like we do things without thinking. And then, of course, when Adam was on the call, he said, because he told me one story about an event that happened at the house, and the first time he told me this in Scotland. And then I was telling that story, and then he told a second story of the same story, a different story. I go, you're confusing me because I don't remember the memory. And then after it's all over, he said, by the way, this also happened. He said, you give me 3 different memories now, it's like it's confusing. And he knew, he does this work. My children do this. And, my youngest son calls me, he's crying, Dad, will you come and help me? And I go and spend time working on him. And my oldest son, he uses it on his kids. He uses it on himself. And he's really followed me in a lot of ways. He and I are a lot alike. And he's a searcher and a reader, and we swap stuff that we're studying. So it's good that, I recommend you can change yourself to every person I love and care for, because it will change you. It gives you the controls. It gives you the ability and the understanding to make peace with your inner world. And that's really what it's about. And Tammy found this. She has a skill. It doesn't mean she does it all the time. Sometimes she'll let herself suffer and not work on it. I do the same. But I still come back to what works. And so if you're watching this and listening to us, come do it. It will change your life. It'll give you the skills. It'll give you the freedom to be different. And you only have one life, and it's not life for suffering. If you like it, that's okay. But I think it should be of love and fun and happiness and growth. So I have a friend, her name's Sherry, and, she started this system. I said, listen, you have a new lease on life. You can see things differently. Your world is different, and it is. And and I said, because, she's walking, and I said, because she's walking and she's afraid to fall. I said, Sherry, don't imagine falling. What you do is say, I'm sure-footed as a goat. I said, sure-footed as a goat. Of course, goat means what? G-O-A-T means what? Greatest of all time, right? So I said, when you walk, don't fear falling. Tell yourself, I'm sure-footed as a goat, and I'm the greatest of all time. That's a whole different way of fearing falling, because you imagine falling and you end up falling. Mm-hmm. So, so we've had a lot of people who start late in life, but they gain a life and gain control. And she taps on herself all the time. Before, she just suffered. No more suffering.
That's right. No more suffering.
It's
All
optional.
right. Yes, it is. All right. So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Robert Jean Experience. Check out the show notes for all the links and make sure you sign up for the free course. And also remember to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend.
And learn to love yourself and like yourself from within, because what you do up here, you do to other people. Start on you, share what you learn. Thank you, Tammy, for being here. Very proud of you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Thanks.
see you guys.
Bye.
That
Bye.
that was good, wasn't it?